I want to bring in at this point Neama Rahmani. He's a former federal prosecutor and president of the West Coast Trial Lawyers. I also want to bring in my friend Jesse Weber, NewsNation legal contributor, anchor at Law and Crime, and also just really, really smart lawyer. Thank you both for being here. Neama, because you're the guest, I'm going to bring you in first. This kind of sounds to me like a really big he said with some famous guys. And it sort of feels that way because of the evidence. Am I wrong?
Well, we have something more than the he said, she said, because we have the grainy video, we have the 911 call, we have the sounds of the shooting, and we have the 9mm rounds that were found in A$AP Rocky's home. And the state, a little bit late, but for the first time, is going to bring their ballistics expert to say that the rounds that A$AP Relli found, and of course the defense is going to attack those could be 9mm rounds. So we have something more, because I agree with you, Ashleigh. The last thing you want to rely is just on the testimony of the victim alone, especially when he's filed a civil lawsuit. So hopefully the state has enough to corroborate that and get a conviction here.
And Jesse, they can bring that in, right? Like they can ask that question, aren't you suing the defendant for a bunch of money? And if he's found guilty in this court of law, won't that be a windfall for you? Like, can't they bring that up as motive?
Guess what? The defense didn't even bring it up. The prosecution had to get out in front of it. You know, the prosecution, they usually have to get out in front of bad facts. And towards the end of the closing argument, they're like, yeah, he found the shell casings. He didn't report it immediately. He's suing A$AP Rocky. We're going to let you know how the case goes. So basically, they had to get out in front of all these bad facts. And look, what was the first thing that Joe Tacopina, who's a very, very high-profile lawyer representing A$AP Rocky, said is this is all about money. This is all about extortion. And, you know, I think one of the reasons that, you know, he said, why wouldn't A$AP Rocky take a deal, 6 months in jail, right, as opposed to what he could be facing? Well, I think it's, you know, he might think that this case is very weak, you know, fingerprints, shaky ballistics, you know, were there really, was there a gun fired? Is it a real gun? But also because he's got this defamation lawsuit. And if he wins this case, that what could be a multi-million-dollar civil lawsuit that he's facing, that could go to the wayside if he's ultimately acquitted here.
So, Neama, you're part of the West Coast Trial Lawyers Association, and so I will turn to you about the celebrity factor, right? Because it's a big deal in L.A. That's the industry. Celebrity is the industry in L.A. And when they do voir dire in a case like this and they're picking jurors, do you think that they asked every one of the jurors, are you a fan of Rihanna? Are you a fan of A$AP Rocky? Have you ever heard of the other A$AP guy? Like, would they have rooted out any fans and decided if they're fans, they can't be fair?
Ashleigh, the celebrity factor matters. I'm sitting here in downtown LA, and I got to tell you, jurors here, they love celebrities. They tend to do well. That's why they offered the 6-month deal. We're talking John Lewin. He's one of the best deputy district attorneys here in Los Angeles. He, of course, is the one who finally, after decades, brought Bob Durst to justice. He was featured in the HBO documentary, The Jinx. So I think the state does recognize the weaknesses in their case. We don't know if Rihanna is going to show up, but if she does, obviously, that's going to be a big game changer. Defense hasn't really tipped their hand one way or another, but if she shows up and she's sitting there in the gallery defending and supporting the father of her children, that's going to be a big problem for the state. So I think you're absolutely right talking about the celebrity factor here.
I'm sorry, were you just talking? Because I literally couldn't process anything because of the fashion parade that was going on the screen. Like, it's such eye candy that I can't imagine. And Jesse, I'll get you to weigh in on this. I can't imagine that it is a major distraction for Rihanna to show up in a courtroom, to sit in the gallery in support of her baby daddy. What is the metric that goes in to making that decision? And can you say, sorry, your wife just can't be here?
Well, look, they were asked about Rihanna during the jury selection process, and this is a jury that you would seem to indicate wouldn't be affected by the Rihanna factor. But whether it's Rihanna or anybody else, when you have family members there, particularly if they bring children, that humanizes the defendant in a way that wouldn't, in a way that can otherwise. And I have to say, one other thing, look, you know, you look at that, he is a very high-profile person. By the way, he's a fashion icon. This is a predominantly female jury, and although it is not a very diverse jury, and we could talk about that, A$AP Rocky is a very good-looking guy. He's actually done modeling before, and you have to wonder, does that affect the jury makeup?
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.